America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him, excuse me.
All right, folks, I am not on mute this time, so that's a great start. Welcome to News from the Pew, where we bring you news stories from the world of politics, culture, and Catholicism, and present them to you in a way that is more digestible than your standard mainstream media narrative. I am your host, Rick Barrett, and I am joined by my wonderful panel. We have Steve Cunningham from Sensus Fidelium. We have Fawaz Yazi, whose album Traditionis is out. Go check it out on Spotify and all major platforms. Also, July 19th, is it that you are? If you want to explain that real quick.
14th. July 14th. I'm engaging in a rap battle versus a Protestant. Protestant rapper.
Excellent. We're all looking forward to that. And we have our friend from Florida, Jonathan Arrington, joining us as well. So we are ready to go, ladies and gentlemen, and we may get a surprise appearance from Ryan Grant. We'll all be on the edge of our seat waiting for that one, but we're going to get right into it. No, I'm serious. I was like having Ryan on. The problem with being sarcastic my entire life is when I say serious things, people think it's actually joking, but that's okay. We'll move on. Big news today. And it's SCOTUS dropping their case on the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Braun. And essentially, the Supreme Court has struck down New York's requirement aspect of their permitting. Now, in its shall issue, I believe, is the case. So you have to give a reason and you have to prove why you need a concealed carry firearm license in the state of New York. Thomas and Alito. It was a 6-3 decision there. And the thought is, I'll give you my 2-second thought on this, and then I'll throw it to the panel. They can either make their remarks on the decision or how stupid my response is. Whichever one, knock yourself out. I am not a 2A guy. I am not a Second Amendment is forever kind of person. I don't like the incorporation of the Second Amendment into the Constitution. I'm a fan of Article 1, Section 23 of the Texas Constitution, which gives me the right to keep and bear arms. That all being said, as long as we are part of this bloated union where we have to listen to guys like John Cornyn, my senator from Texas, leading the charge to strip me of my right to defend myself, I'm okay with, as long as we are in the union, using this SCOTUS decision to kind of blunt some of the nasty effects that they're going to try and impose on me, that these tyrants are going to try and impose on me. Am I in favor of the Supreme Court stepping on a state's rights to do things? No, I am not, because it could have easily gone the other way. And I don't want it to sound like I'm a typical Republican, like, yay, Supreme Court. I just like the fact that this is a little bit of a shield while we try to figure out if we're going our own separate ways or any of these other things that are rapidly taking shape with Roe potentially coming down the line and the splitting culturally of these states into separate unions. Now we got people talking about the West Coast should secede, which is fine. I'm like, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord splits you on the way out. So am I happy about the decision? Yes, I am. Am I a SCOTUS 2A guy? No, I'm not. I know people think that's hypocritical, but Congratulations. Now you see an example of a hypocrite then. But let's throw it to Steve, because Steve has been battling everybody on Twitter as much as possible. I don't think I don't think he likes my response, which is fine. It makes for good viewing. But your thoughts on the decision, and if you want to incorporate the Maine decision yesterday as well, in which SCOTUS struck down Maine's ability to disperse federal funding. Maine wanted to exclude religious schools, but the SCOTUS said you couldn't. So you can comment on either one of those, Steve.
All right, I'll play the video in case somebody that's watching has a life and had a job today and didn't see this already.
Rights and the Second Amendment were front and center at the Supreme Court today. As John Yang reports, it is the first major test of gun regulations since the court said that gun ownership was a right protected by the Constitution.
While the Supreme Court has said the Constitution gives Americans the right to keep a gun at home, gun rights advocates say that should apply outside the home as well.
The Second Amendment doesn't end at your doorstep.
Tom King is president of the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association.
I think that someone who is not otherwise prohibited should be issued a concealed carry permit without any problems at all.
King's group sued New York on behalf of 2 upstate members who were both denied unlimited concealed carry permits for self-defense because officials said they didn't prove they needed them.
And they were turned down for no reason at all. Okay, no reason given other than I don't think that you need it.
When the Supreme Court recognized an individual right to gun ownership in 2008, the ruling, written by the late Justice Antonin Scalia, acknowledged that the right secured by the Second Amendment is not unlimited. Gun control backers argued that limits are needed to protect another right. Chris Brown, president of the advocacy group Brady.
It's about the right to live. It's about our ability as Americans to walk down the street, to leave our homes, to go to church, to go to synagogue, and actually be able not to fear being shot.
Now do
That's
abortions.
Ultimately what's at stake in this case.
Is that the one
While
who beat
King, a
Rihanna?
member of the National Rifle Association's board of directors, said that big city gun laws do little to curb violent crime, Brown says that licensing systems like New York State's do.
States that don't have robust permitting systems have on average, at minimum, about a 12% increase or spike in gun-related violence in those states. These permitting systems work.
New York is one of 8 states plus the District of Columbia that require gun owners to prove a need for a concealed carry permit. Some of today's oral arguments focused on the history of gun regulation in America, which the court had used to establish the right to gun ownership. Justice Sonia Sotomayor pressed the attorney arguing for the gun group on which history was relevant.
In court, hey,
in
gotta be safe.
colonial America, at least 4, if not 5 states restricted concealed arms. After the Civil War, there were many more states, some included in their constitution.
You know who concealed
that
arms?
you can have a right to arms, but not concealed. I don't know how I get past all that history.
Well,
without you sort of making it up and saying there's a right to control states that has never been exercised in the entire history of the United States, as to how far they can go in saying this poses a danger.
Chief Justice John Roberts asked one of the attorneys arguing in support of the New York law why someone should have to show a special need to exercise a constitutional right.
So why do you have to show, in this case, convince somebody that you're entitled to exercise your Second Amendment right? You can say that the right is limited in a particular way, just as First Amendment rights are limited, but the idea that you need a license to exercise the right, I think, is unusual in the context of the Bill of Rights.
That showed one indication that the Chief Justice is thinking that, there's something not quite right here about what's going on.
Marcia Coyle, Chief Washington Correspondent for the National Law Journal.
The court appeared just as divided as they were in 2008. And in 2008, the court was divided over what the right in the Second Amendment meant. But this time, they're looking at what is the scope of that right.
Roberts and other justices pushed the gun owner's attorney on whether the right to bear arms extends everywhere. The New York City subway, crowded football stadiums, Times Square on New Year's Eve.
This is why this case is difficult. There is this balance between public safety and a constitutional right.
The court will likely rule by next summer. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm John Yang.
So that was the actual covering of the event. So SCOTUS ruled that New York system of permitting was not correct, and it's been struck down. So now, if you want to jump in, Steve.
Yeah, how about him saying about the controlling states? Here's two different tweets today I saw on this. Brian McClanahan, the left. States should be able to do what they want with firearms. Also the left. States cannot allow to regulate abortion, marriage, or education. Here's another one. Robert Wright. So states can decide that you must carry a fetus, but not whether you can carry a concealed gun. We're doing it to ourselves. It's that whole idea of when I brought out the NRA saying that, the whole, and again, Rick and Mike has talked about this on their shows many, many times. I have actually a YouTube video I put together for Mike. I'll put in the show notes. It's on with Dr. Kevin Gutzman on the Second Amendment and the progressive idea of incorporation, and how this thing is not from as they said, as the one guy started out saying, doesn't end at your door. The first 10th Amendment, the Bill of Rights, has nothing to do with what goes on in the state. It's what the feds cannot do to the states. That's why the states have their own constitution. Even Sotomayor even brought that up. Now, I looked at New York Constitution weeks ago, I think it was.
It's Article 12.
I'm sorry?
Article 12 mentions a militia.
Yeah, it's in there. So this is a New York issue. This is, as what's-his-face, he said at the end, you're controlling the states. And here we got conservatives now applauding this. This is Glenn Beck. Yay, Tim Pool. Yay, everyone's like, yay, you just destroyed federalism. What do you want? Do you want state rights or do you not want state rights? Do you want federalism or do you not want federalism? What is it? Because right now, everything they're talking about abortion going back to the states, using this exact logic, that's a hypocritical idea from what we're wanting that to happen. Now, again, yeah, we should want it in total, but name me something in the last 50 years that you got rid of that from DC. It ain't happening. You got to do it at the state level, which has been working. Now, we might have just did it to ourselves on this Roe thing by saying, well, we can't force the state to do anything. It's got to be from the feds. All hail the federal government. Nationalism. These are something from the same people that want limited government is okay, as the phrase is, it's okay when we do it. It's just like, what's his face? The Daily Wire putting out a feminist show movie where it shows the bad guy is a Southern Christian dude, and the hero in the movie is a woman who takes out the bad guys while her husband's away getting groceries. Yep. Sounds like, as Whitlock says, sounds like a Netflix movie, but it's okay when we do it. We're the conservative people. That's how we want to do it. We're canceled, so we're going to pull this way off. We got to be consistent in this. This is all right. Yeah, sure. Was it a right thing? If you're in New York, you might be excited about it. Hey, yeah, woo. Well, that's your fault for not getting it right in New York. Now you got big daddy government that you're begging your knees for to come bail you out for the government that you put in there, albeit New York City rules your state. Well, that's on you. You figure it out. Now, this eventually come down to all the states. Again, like I told many people today, just get rid of the states. Get rid of that constitution. Get rid of the state constitution, and let's just be ruled by a 10-mile square, as Patrick Henry called it, and just be Russia. We are basically just a little Russia right now. Everyone looks at Mordor. Tell us how to live. If there's a city that's going after another city, we got to go to SCOTUS. I mean, nobody think, hey, as Rick knows, it's in the Texas Constitution. It's in the New York Constitution. It's in the North Carolina, South Carolina. It's in the Idaho. They all got it. We don't have to have big daddy government, federal government to do that, unless you want them to do everything for you, like the thing with Maine with the education thing. Sotomayor brings up saying it's going after the wall of separation. Today, that'd be an email that Jefferson did to the Danbury Baptist when the Baptist wrote him saying, hey, these guys in Connecticut, where they have a state religion on the books. Everyone goes, oh, the First Amendment can't. What was it? 12 out of the 13 original colonies had state religions authorized by their own state constitution. So that right there should tell you that the whole idea of the Bill of Rights, the I swore to Hoffenbach, is just the modern thing that Hugo Black basically put together in his opinion back in the day. That's, if you want it top down, bottom up, and no say, go for it. I mean, Jefferson didn't go, hey, you know what? That's a good idea. We need to make a federal law against this. No, he basically told him, good luck. I'm with you, but there's nothing I can do, even though he was president. And he couldn't do that to the state of Connecticut. It wasn't his authority. Now it's the reverse. We rule this, the feds run the states. That's why everyone goes, hey, we got to run the SCOTUS. We got to have justice by judiciary. And get the book by Russ Dutant. Is it Dutant? Justice by Judiciary, and it talks about the incorporation doctrine and how flawed that idea is. And that's everybody within the sound of our voice and everyone on YouTube and all this, except for a very, very few minority of people will say, no, it's not for here, everywhere, incorporated everywhere, and there's nothing you can do about it. No, that's wrong.
I think Steve got so fired up that they actually booted him off of YouTube. So that's all right. We'll keep that frame there. That's fine. You know what, Fawaz? Jump on in.
Oh man, I was getting excited listening to Steve. I can agree with a lot of what Steve's saying, and I'm all about the principle of subsidiarity when it comes to governance and when it comes to the civil law. You know, if we wanted a monarch, this is not what I would choose. I wouldn't choose 9 unelected officials who are literally have little to no virtue to run an entire country. And that being said, I think where most conservatives are, and when I say conservatives, I'm not talking about the traditionalists, those who actually want to conserve the natural law. I'm talking about the conservatives who want to be liberals 10 years ago. I think they've taken so many L's lately. And even those that we thought were on our side have turned their back on us. As example, the senator from Texas, I think Cornyn is his name.
Your guy too in Kentucky, Mitch McConnell.
McConnell has turned his back on us a long time ago. So, and then we have I think the senator or the representative from Utah, Project Veritas, just uncovered this when they went to a spokesman regarding Roe v. Wade, and he said he's just staying quiet about it because he doesn't agree. So when he goes out in campaigns, he tells us what we want to hear, but in private he doesn't. So he keeps his mouth shut, and this is the problem: is that we keep electing these folks that tell us what we want to hear because it sounds great. They're grifters; they make all this money, and then they get elected and they go do whatever the establishment wants to do with the rhinos, and we keep falling for it. So, the conservatives like, well, our last hope is this conservative, minded SCOTUS, and but at the same time, if you really want to go that route, that's a very dangerous hole to go into, mainly because it's just going to end up being when you have a leftist president and he's going to put his leftist SCOTUS nominees in, it's going to shift the country in a certain way, like we saw with Obama. And then once Trump comes in, it shift the country in a certain way. And now with Biden, he might, next couple of years, you never know, he might put maybe 1 or 2 more, depending on retirements or deaths. It's just going to shift the country a certain way. And now we're just ruling by 9 elected officials. So I could sympathize with Steve. We'll take the win, but at some point, you gotta be able to you gotta be careful, because that's the small victory can end up biting us in the butt later on.
No, I completely agree. I completely agree that the idea of having us rely on these 9 unelected officials is the worst thing that you can do, only because it eventually will get you. It's going to swing the other way. And that's why I called it my Trump 2020 theory. I didn't care. I wasn't desperate to have Trump get elected. I wanted Trump elected so I would have a 4-year buffer to figure out how to get out of this this union, or try to prep more for this eventual. Because what's happening now, I thought was going to happen in 2024 when a Democrat came into office. So I just wanted Trump there to kind of give me more time. So I look at this decision as something that gives me more time as these tyrants try to push these things through to strip my rights. I am not happy. I am not happy at this at all. But for this short-term limited thing, I'm okay with it. I know it's not the right attitude, John, but it is kind of it is the place we are right now.
Yeah, I just add that kind of from a historical perspective that I mean, this is pretty much the way things have always worked in the relationship between the church and the civil authorities in whatever nation you want to pick. I mean, the church has always encouraged subsidiarity, but read history deeply, thoroughly, and you see that the church has always tried to have a good, cozy relationship so that the church could influence the different people who were reigning in the both as Holy Roman emperors and the other different states that have or nations or whatever you would want to call them in the Middle Ages that were in power. So yeah, I would just stress that we don't want to get too far afield and kind of caricaturing the idea of just we'll take the win. We'll take anything good that is for truth and justice and virtue that we can get, because it's always pretty much been a we'll take the little victories we can get them from the perspective of subsidiarity, and we'll take the top down victories that we can get as well, because yes, there's always going to be this pushback from Satan and his minions. So yeah, we have to take the good that we can get and appreciate it, and try to influence the culture as best we can with these good decisions. So I see it both as a win, but yet at the same time we need to be spending our time convincing people that there are other things that need to be done on a local level to push the true, the good, and the beautiful forward here, or simply in this case regarding education and guns, sanity, right? I mean, so what in our nation has just been the perspective of sanity, right? The right to keep and bear arms, and the right to support the education of children, which is so important, in a way that the local folks see fit. I mean, it's just a no-brainer. It seems to me. So yeah, we'll take the W when we can get it, and never stop repeating that we need to work on approaches from the smaller units as well. So I see it as a both and. And Matt, to be honest, I don't have even a philosophical problem with it in principle.
Yeah, I once again, I think it's a very good point you brought up, is that we can't get complacent. Kind of like the Trump thing when he got elected in 2016. A lot of people just kind of took it off. They're like, all right, we won, so we're good for a couple.
Trust the plan, right?
Exactly. And so that was the big issue there, is that people stopped. And that's the problem that we'll potentially have if if Dobbs gets struck down, is that people will get complacent there as well. So we are very happy to be joined by Mr. Ryan Grant of Mediatrics Press. So we're talking about the SCOTUS striking down the New York State Rifle Association, that decision. And if you want to comment on Maine's decision yesterday, where they are not allowed to disperse, or they have to disperse federal funds among all schools, religious and so forth. Ryan, if you want to jump on in.
Sure. Thanks for having me on. Sorry I was late getting in here. So on the today's decision, I think it's good. I don't know if Steve's already been on saying no, this is bad because we got to do it at the state level.
He got so pumped up they kicked him off He got so fired up that there he is.
There he is.
I was on a roll too at internet time.
Silence. It's Brian's turn.
I think as far as preventing the government from stopping what is really your natural law right to make decisions, requisite to your self-defense, I'm going to take a W on that one. I think that's a good thing. It's the right thing. You're already seeing on the left implode on Twitter, and they're just losing it. That look at this. Now there's going to be more guns and more crime and more shootings and more orphans and widows and all this stuff. And here in Idaho, I remember that the very small number of Democrats in Boise were making that same type of argument. And when they introduced constitutional carry, that if you're 18 years old and you're an Idaho resident and you have no felonies, you may conceal carry a weapon with no permit whatsoever. You just go out and start doing it. And that's it. Crime actually went down. It went down. Crime coming over from Washington State went down. because a lot of the criminal types over there, Chinese and Russian gangs and people, come over here for some home invasions and stuff, they got scared. And because they're like, wow, everyone's got a gun over there. Let's stay over here where they're a little more, even though they have, they can carry over there with a permit. There's not a lot of people that avail that in Washington. So any state that can get this in, I mean, that really is the best thing. And I think that, I mean, since we're in this period where the last century they've applied the Bill of Rights to the states and said, no, this affects you too. You can talk about the merits or demerits of that. And I've certainly got a number of opinions on that, but irrespective, that's the way that they have done it for the last 100 years. And as long as they're going to be doing it, let's make it clear that you can't infringe our natural law rights to own and to carry weapons outside of the home. Because again, somebody who's got a mens rea and evil and wicked intent, he's going to do it anyway. Right? It doesn't really matter what the law is. My only problem with the decision was the second part of the decision, which dealt with Miranda rights. And I don't know if you saw that one, Rick. Dang, I had that up on my phone. I don't have it in here. But essentially, they determined that you can't sue a police officer that violates your Miranda rights or doesn't read your Miranda rights, and then uses various material so that in ways to harm you. And that was concerning because in and of itself, it doesn't affect a whole lot, because still you can sue the city or the county or the government or whatever agency, carried out the case and the conviction and whatnot. If they violated your due process rights and everything. But it's a furtherance of the disturbing trend of saying that, and really more reason for the first part of the decision, where anything a police officer, anything law enforcement chooses to do is perfectly okay as far as the courts are concerned, like that disastrous decision to say that, yeah, the police don't have to do anything to you. That Supreme Court decision, I don't have it at hand.
It's Castle Rock v. Gonzalez.
That actual case, it was a woman who had a restraining order against her husband, who was demonstrably very violent, and so the police were supposed to, by the law of the state, enforce that protective order. They didn't do it. Her husband came and kidnapped the kids. She called up the cops, and the cops said, well, that's nice. Give us a call in another hour. Yeah, we're not going to do anything. Oh, I'm going to go out to dinner. The husband later comes and starts shooting at the cops. And after he's killed, they discover the 3 kids dead in the car because they refused to enforce the protective order. So that and the Supreme Court, and Scalia writing the majority, by the way, oh yeah, that's totally fine. They don't have to do anything. So we don't want citizens being able to sue the cops. It's like, you want us to back the blue, but the blue doesn't want to back us. So that's in my area. I know a lot of good cops. There's a lot of good cops that absolutely would be out there enforcing that order. But there's a lot of places where there are those who don't, and they're lazy, and they'd rather go after, confiscate your assets, confiscate, do no-knock warrants on in the middle of the night and all these things. They'd rather be doing that than dealing with actual violent criminals who need to get put away. That's really, I think, the negative I take away from the decision is that now, again, more and more the court is saying, yeah, you can't hold any of these guys responsible.
Yeah.
For anything. Yeah. So it's a mixed bag ultimately.
It always is a mixed bag when you go with SCOTUS. I know John wanted to get something in on law before we move on to the next one. John, if you want to jump in.
Yeah, it was just something I read yesterday in regard to Saints Thomas More and John Fisher. What was that? And you guys have all heard it before, and I'm sure everybody else has that is listening. But the supposed back and forth between Roper and St. Thomas More about are you going to give the devil the benefit of the law? And then St. Thomas More is like, yes, what would you do, Roper? And he's like, would you cut down all the laws to get after the devil? And Roper, yeah, I'd cut down every law in England to do that. And then, basically St. Thomas More, like, well, and that last law's down and the devil turns around on you, what are you going to do, Roper? So just this same thought of whenever something good is comes out like this, at least the first part of it, I didn't know about this second part. So thank you, Ryan, for mentioning that. That does sound actually really bad. But whenever you have that the benefit of the law there on your side, you ought to take it because it's usually going to provide beneficial for those who are pursuing virtue and the good, and do with it what you can. Because there's going to come a time where we're going to need those good laws. But then, goodness, when bad things come up, like what Ryan just mentioned, then that's difficult, and we do everything we can to fight against that.
Absolutely. Since the vacuum came and took Steve out, let's you get the final word, buddy, because I know you were on a roll, and Steve's a little passionate about this, so I want to give him the final word before we move on.
I mean, I don't even remember what I was saying. I started talking, all of a sudden the screen went dead. But no, I mean, if we're for this, we're government by judiciary. Don't complain when Roe doesn't go down or something bad comes back at us, because it will. We just gave the feds carte blanche now. I know the incorporation doctrine is a progressive idea. Anybody that subscribes to it, it's a progressive mindset. It might be, as Brian said, yes, it is basically what everyone's been doing for the last few decades, maybe 100 years. That doesn't mean it's right. None of that. And it will. You take that, any amendment, then it's going to happen then. Nobody should complain if they take the fourth out on you and they say, oh, no, it's okay now. Nobody better complain when they take away first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. You just, why? I mean, let's be consistent then. If we're against federalism on this, then be against federalism on everything. If you're for federalism, try. I mean, that's what Mayor Goodsman had a great thing. What we need to incorporate is federalism for the first time ever, because we've really almost never done that. Now, it sucks. It might not be great. You're not gonna like it in some cases. Tough. That's why you can move to another state. You're not stuck in the same quote unquote country like USSR was. Or if it's some like gigantic big landmass ruled by a 10-mile square, you're not at the bidding of that 10-mile square. Now, when Texas breaks off, hopefully if Texas ever breaks off, that takes away all their focus from DC and SCOTUS and all the black judges, the black robe judges up in DC, and focuses on getting Texas straight. Because Abbott is a big WEF guy. Rick knows this. He's all for all the green energy. He's all for this. They could literally start drilling tomorrow and have gas in that area down to like 90 cents probably, and it'd be
enough for 100 years.
Yeah, I mean, they take care of the southern border, which makes the U.S. southern border southern part of Oklahoma. That's what I always kept on joking about. When they get rid of the southern border, we got to protect the southern border. Well, if Texas leaves, what becomes the southern border? So again, the USA is not a country; it's a federal republic. If we want to treat it like that, then stuff like this, you got to look at it really unbiased and say, this was a bad decision. Tough on New York. Sorry. That's on y'all. I don't want the ruling of DC coming about blanket statement across the board. And we'll end up going to get that down the road.
Oh, I agree. I completely agree. That's why I always like to consider these buffers. Anything that can buffer me against tyranny for a while. I know it makes me hypocritical because I'm not a corporationist. I don't like the fact that SCOTUS steps in. The only thing I'll throw this out there, I know I'm going to throw this out there and then move quickly on because we got to keep it tight today. But the way they're going to justify striking down Dobbs is that the Second Amendment is in the Constitution and abortion is not in the Constitution. Ergo, the 10th Amendment says it doesn't have to be pushed by the federals. It's an absolute backwards way of thinking, but that's how it looks like they'll strike it down. Either way, it's still in federal hands, Steve, and it's not the decision that we want. So we'll move on. Like I said, I'm gonna throw that out there. Y'all can chew on that. We'll probably talk about it next week, and then because hopefully the decision comes down tomorrow. It probably won't. It might come down next Friday. Who knows?
Yeah, I saw a couple of tweets supposed to come out today. They're saying, but who knows?
They've been saying that for 2 weeks now. Like they'll drop it July 1st at 4:59 in the Friday news dump when they're all on airplanes flying as far away from DC as possible. They have it scheduled out for 5 o'clock on a 3-day weekend. So they can let everything burn.
It'll be like the site at the bar that says free beer tomorrow.
That's exactly what it is. Dobbs drops tomorrow. That's what they always keep saying. But we'll see how that shakes up. Moving on so that's our political section of News from the Pew. Now we'll move on to a cultural section. And the cultural news that I find to be most thing that we can talk about is the performance of Lightyear. Lightyear was a movie that came out. It's based off the Toy Story franchise. It was a big deal because it was on the schedule, but then the Disney employees wanted to get back at Ron DeSantis, and they put in an LGBT MAP kiss, and they made sure that these themes were put into play, and they marketed it. And I think we played it last week where Chris Evans was like, all you stupid heteros are going to die out like dinosaurs because you're not progressive like us. Well, it tanked in the first weekend. It not only tanked, it's the second lowest grossing opening for a Pixar movie behind Onward. And the reason that didn't do well is because they shut down theaters in 2020 when it was being released. So it is a visceral response to Disney and Pixar because they promoted it. Now, I would like you gentlemen to comment on that, but I also want you to comment on the fact that Disney doesn't care that it bombed, because A, it'll be on Disney Plus forever. So when you and I are gone and kids are still watching it, they'll have access to it. And B, it comes to something we talked about earlier where the left, in order to push these messages, will take losses in order to further the message. Steve.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just like there's a couple of companies that are running like Bitcoin, zombie companies. They don't care about the profits. They're just taking the money and to get a loss to push their agenda as well. Yeah, it's just about getting the agenda out, no matter what. It's the society thing we talked about last time. I messed up and I said it was Corpus Christi right up. It was Garnier on Saint Basil talking about that if the salt loses its flavor, you don't need a tyrant. The society and culture would just go down the pits because of it. And look at ourselves. Look, as one priest said, it's a mess out there because it's a mess in here. I mean, where's the morality in the church? There was an article about morality in the United States and the churches in general, and there's nobody has it anymore. So morality's gone down to the toilet chute in the sense. And so what do you think? What's, pergamentum in it, exit pergamentum. I mean, garbage in, garbage out. And so you get all this nutty garbage that comes in our heads and it gets into the kids' minds. Kids are very easily to manipulate, and you'll have them screwed up for life afterwards. So, I mean, solution on this is fatherhood. Fathers got to be, fathers. I mean, you got to care about raising your kids to the point of level. Are you playing with your kids outside? Are you teaching them yourself? Are you outsourcing being a parent to some other thing instead of putting them in front of a TV? Or if you do have to put them in a TV, like, well, I'll let the kids watch TV. We have I'm with you, Scout. The dogs. I don't know.
Dog TV?
Yeah, I'm with you, Scout. We'll help each other.
I don't have kids, so this goes right over my head.
I can't remember the name. Leapfrog stuff. And
you should let you should let your kids watch that Russian and the Bear girl from Russia.
I have no idea.
It's on YouTube.
I got Cat in the Hat, Leapfrog, and Curious George. I mean, really, outside of that, that's really about it. I mean, you got to be able to monitor what they're watching. So if, like you said, Buzz Lightyear, who was it before? And Tim Allen. Tim's a conservative guy who's outspoken and is okay to say what he thinks out loud. So they didn't like what he had to say the last couple of times about the culture of diversity and things of that nature. And they axed him. They put, as they said, a 41-year-old unmarried kid a guy with no kids talking about how everyone else is going to become extinct like the dinosaurs. So and it's just, again, Disney's in the toilet. You got to be almost, I don't know, you got to be insane now to send your kids to Disney or watch Disney. And I'm a fan of Cars. I know Ryan and I've talked about the movie Cars.
Oh, I love the movie Cars.
But yeah, the rest of it's almost like, all right, we just got to cut bait.
Yeah. Fwaz, we always come to you with this kind of stuff when we talk about cultural stuff because you're taking that bull by the horns and trying to reclaim an area of the culture for Catholicism. And so are you encouraged by the underperformance of Lightyear? Do you think it's a bump in the road? What are your thoughts on that?
Yes and no.
Did Steve's vacuum hit yours too? It may have. He is in such deep thought right now that we're going to let him go. John, jump in there. You can take those questions.
All right. So, Rick, at first I wasn't a big fan of this topic.
I appreciate you, John. I do appreciate you going along with me on it, though.
No, and the more, and I'm glad you kept pushing, because it took me a while to think about it, and something did come to me. I remember going to the first movie of this series with Buzz Lightyear, and I thought it was pretty good. With my only set of cousins that had more than just a few children, they had 7, and now I have 6 of my own. So it's it is something that kind of eventually gets at the heart of family life, because it's something that could end up affecting all of us who have kids, even if we wouldn't let our kids watch it, as Steve is mentioning there. And the first one was I thought pretty good from what I remembered. I mean, it's been 20 plus years or so. So the fact that this could bomb and be enough to really just give us all the heebie-jeebies, and not even want to discuss it because it's just so disgusting. It tells you a lot. But I think Steve really hit I think he hit it well when he talked about what we ought to be doing with our kids. So like yesterday, I'm playing around with my kids and some of my kids in the backyard, and some of the others come up with some neighborhood kids and say, "Oh, Daddy, we're bored." And I just said, that is the best thing I have heard you say all day. I'm bored, because you have to learn how to manage free time, you know,
Leisure time.
and
Yeah.
lift the heart and mind to something better with it. Because that otium, that free time, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to spend it looking at the current line of Disney products? I hope not. So the more I thought about it, like the downhill progression, I guess you could say in a certain sense, morally regression of the Buzz Lightyear enterprise, it is something interesting to talk about. And I still remember seeing that first one with the other big family in my family, and how we thought it was great at the time, and now it's not so good. So yeah, it's something worthy noting. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just that this almost became such a huge flashpoint, because it was, oh, the nostalgia of Disney, and oh, all this other stuff, and Disney planted their flag, their LGBT pride flag, if you will, on this, saying, we don't care, you're going to accept it. It looks like Fawaz is back with us. If you want to jump on in, you can answer that as well, sir.
Sure, I'll make it quick. What I was trying to say is, you can really tell where the enemy's going and what makes them panic. When their movie flops, they don't care. They've got so many streams of income coming in from so many different directions. $200 million to them is not a problem that they can flop, as long as they push that agenda. Like you said, it's going to be on Disney Plus for the rest of our lives. So, in our kids' lives. So as long as they keep pushing the agenda. Now, where did we see the enemy panic? Is when DeSantis took their power away from influencing children in real life with teachers. And so I think we should learn where the fight is. And yeah, it's great that we made the movie flop. Nobody went inside. And as parents, we have the absolute duty and responsibility, first of all, to God, to raise our children for the sake of heaven, to fill heaven for his sake. That's charity. And number two, like Steve was saying, we also have a responsibility to guide our children into virtue, not so much for themselves only, but also the fact that we're going to be sending them off to society, and we're going to be gone. And do I really want to burden everybody else because I failed in my duty as a parent to raise a good person? This is where virtue comes in, and I've gotten rid of Disney pretty much, from top to bottom for my kids, because I just don't like the agenda and what it does to them and to children. So let's take a look at where the enemy panics, and let's keep pushing that way. That's my personal opinion. I think DeSantis he started something. Let's keep pushing that way, and not just be distracted with the fact that we didn't go pay $12 to see a movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan, if you want to jump in, your thoughts on the whole issue with Lightyear.
Yeah, it's clearly it's a box office flop. I mean, the fact that Top Gun Maverick is in the number 2 spot, Top Gun was only just barely beaten out in its gross earnings by Jurassic World, which I think is its second week.
In its second week, and
yeah,
it's
just barely edged out Top Gun by less than about $500,000, maybe $600,000. Then Lightyear far below that. It's just opening. So Top Gun, and that's also in the international markets too. So even though it's been out there for 3 weeks, it's still beaten out Lightyear. Really, I mean, let's look. Who wants to see this movie? Really, average moviegoers, families, whatever. The demographic you would think that would go see this. Oh yeah, I remember Toy Story as a kid. Well, that was such a nice, wholesome movie. Hey, they're going to do a Buzz Lightyear spinoff. That was a cool story. But let me get into that. And largely because of everything that comes out. And it was the typical thing. You got Chris Evans coming out, shaming the fans, trying to shame the fans. Oh, you heterosexual. I'm sorry. Which one of us can have babies? Oh, yeah, that's right. That's where the future is, not with the current line of degeneracy that's being pushed at every level. So ultimately, parents said, nah, we don't want to see it. And again, that type of thing, they usually come out with something like that, just like with the recent Kenobi turd that they just put out on Disney Plus. It was the same type of thing. They create this controversy that wasn't a controversy over one of the actresses that were in it, Moses Ingram, something or other. She's black, of course. So they can put out a couple of Instagram messages from some idiot and that are probably fairly racist, right? Like what, 3, 4, I don't know. And then look at this toxic fandom, that's also racist, and that's why things need to change. People, yeah, all this controversies to cover the fact that the show stunk like a really bad turd. So similar thing here, the controversy of homophobia because we put gender affirming stuff in the movie or whatever. That's what they want you to focus on, not that the movie was a turd. Yeah. So, and that's especially when you're looking at the whole domestic opening at what 6.5 million, and this is the opening, and it's just going to keep going down from here. Yeah. And yet it's, what did this thing cost? 200
million. 200 million to make, and then usually you double that for advertising. So right. 400 million.
So that's what you're looking at, and it's just not there. So what typically happens is Disney will have a bunch of things like this that are just absolute flops. They lose money. A lot of the studios do. Then they'll have that one movie that does great. It makes them a ton of money. And so, okay, and so it kind of becomes that little lifeline when they go back to the investors. But even that's been slipping a bit for Disney. Disney has not come up with the Disney Plus subscribers that they were hoping to come up. So investors have actually been turning away. There's a good article in, I think it was Forbes or Investor Daily I was reading on the subject, how a lot of investors are turning their nose up at Disney stock, even as it's going down. Perfect time to buy, the conventional wisdom would have it. And they're not. So the long-term investment in this company, just at a strict secular minded business level, it really isn't looking good. It's got massive liabilities, especially in its fight with Florida, which it lost, and now it's going to be a ton of money that they're going to end up having to pay out there. They can't move any of that. You again have massive losses on Disney Plus. They have the numbers. We don't have the numbers, but we know from the reviews and the general energy online that it's really the only one small select group of people that are watching this stuff. And largely the same one that came to see this movie, people who are 40 years old, probably some species of alphabet something, who don't have families, and they're addicted to all Disney, consumption of Disney products over and over again.
The consumer. Yeah.
So these are the people that are going to see it, and that's obviously not enough, and that's a dwindling breed, right? So ultimately, is this Disney's death throes? Not immediately. It's one of these too big to fail things. They can keep limping along for a very long time, but it isn't really making money right now, and its investors are turning away from it because they're not seeing a long-term profit. My long-term vision of something like Disney is that it'll be a failing forward type of thing, to where it essentially gets nationalized and bailed out by the government to be government propaganda down the road. Whether when we get there, be the kind of thing that just consumes everything. Watch for some more mergers with some smaller media companies, and then Disney becomes very much the Monsanto of media. They want to own all your stories. They want to own all storytelling, and that has really bad effects for the culture. And you already saw what they try to do with. They put out that foolish movie on Day of the Dead, right? And then they try to actually incorporate the title Day of the Dead in order to make it so that they would trademark it and you couldn't use it even in Mexico. Well, that failed in court spectacularly, thank goodness. But the very fact they had the gall and the audacity to even try that really shows where their mindset's at. They want to own all your stories. They want to own the culture and tell it, of course, their way. And all the people who are running things over there right now, like Victoria Alonso, the people, Kathleen Kennedy over in the Star Wars side of it, Kevin Feige over in the Marvel side of it, they're all 100% in line with this wokeified vision of push alphabet everything in every single production, no matter what. And they can't even tell good stories to go along with it. Usually garbage stories with a lot of filler because they really have nothing. They just don't have writers or talent making this stuff. And even when they do, they're still being directed around and held by the hand by the studio executives demanding you're going to do it this way.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a pretty good roundup on what happened this with Lightyear, and that'll take care of it unless anybody has any final thoughts on that. It's a continuation. It will not be the end for Disney. They will continue to do this because Doctor Strange made almost $1 billion. So that's the movie plus they have Thor Super Lesbos coming out in like 2 weeks. So we'll see how that goes. That one will probably underperform as well because nobody wants to watch CGI Natalie Portman boss 6'2" Chris Hemsworth around like they've been married for 15
Well, actually, on that one, that might actually do better than this. I don't think it'll do as well as it could if you made a really good Thor story. But what's going to end up happening with it, because that's the last character from the more classical MCU, and they're going to bring that in. So people will go to watch it, some of it just to see where the story ends. That will actually probably do well, much like Doctor Strange did very, very well at the box office, even though it made him a side character in his own story and put in all the intersectional feminism and woke everything.
We just described Thor: Love and Thunder.
Everyone hated it, but yeah, it's going to be the same thing. But I still think it's probably going to do well at the box office, but still be considered a colossal turd, and everyone's going to hate it.
The last one.
Accused of orthodoxy before the Episcopalian Inquisition.
No! We found a Facebook post of yours upholding 2,000-year-old Christian teaching.
Arrogance!
He dared challenge the new sacred texts we wrote last week.
The Bible clearly condemns gay marriage. The earliest Christians did too. All of them.
But the Bible also says to never hurt anyone's feelings. And that's the most important thing, is that you're having fun.
And make sure you're drinking enough water.
The Bible does not say any of those things.
Let's hear you backsass us after this. And a 1, and a 2, and a...
All are welcome.
Stop it! No, please stop!
Are you ready to repent?
Yes. Give up your sinful ways. Not that I believe in sin. I think it's more of a metaphor for not being gay enough or something. I don't know.
I will never repent because I believe in truth.
When did Jesus ever suggest there was absolute truth?
When he said, I am the way and the truth.
Well, that may be fine for him, but I believe in my truth. Exactly. Don't all roads lead to the same place anyway?
Yeah, but it's not heaven.
Oh, you believe in hell? Even though Jesus said, judge not, and always have a good time.
And make sure you're drinking enough water, dearie.
Stop it!
You're going to suffer before the Almighty. Not that I believe there's an objective Almighty.
Sheamus for the win for just once again. That guy
drinking enough water.
Drinking, sweetie. So yes, that is a nice segue to our final topic, our Catholic topic here on News from the Pew. If you wanna play the song, Steve. I mean, I don't think there's any other way to bring that in, or do we not have? There it is.
just like you did for dinosaurs. Destroy mankind with meteors. Humanity has run its course. Annihilation we endorse. We praise the Almighty God. Now carry us into the sun. Please hurl a rock of massive size to bring to us a swift demise.
Amen indeed. Amen indeed. Absolutely. Probably the best song you'll hear at a Novus Ordo Mass. You'll never hear it there, but nothing encapsulates 2022. I guess you would say traditional Catholics every day when we wake up. That pretty much is the theme song at this point, whether it's Lightyear or whether it's this or whether it's that. It's like Sweet Meteor of Death any day now. Just give me a heads up like 15 minutes so I get to confession and then just wipe this sucker out. Just do whatever you got to do in that regard. But that's pretty good. Steve, you think you're gonna see if you can get that into Mass this week?
Dude, if anybody's listening, goes to a Novus Ordo Mass and knows they may play that, print that up and sing it during and see if anybody's paying attention. I actually might want to try to find one just to sing it there.
If you pass it in front of enough people, they'll just look at it and sing. They won't.
They have no idea what's going on. They'll just sing with you. So this guy
give them a catchy title. Just be
like,
Our Sweet End or something like that, and they'll just be like, "Oh, that sounds nice," and then they'll start. And then they'll just rip this sucker up. Jonathan, you have a pretty interesting point about this song that it makes it pretty noteworthy.
Well, yeah, the French, and I love the French. I really, really love the French. I spent a good number of years in France and have many good things to say about the French. But I mean, with all due respect, they very rarely will take something that's homegrown in the States or in England and kind of redo it in their language just as is. But there is a version on YouTube that is essentially this very thing, just with French words. So and it too is well sung as this one is. I could have called the ending there by the tenor, the kind of going a little bit higher than what you would have expected from the melody there. But the reason I suggested getting this in there is that it's kind of like what the right, the good conservative right in politics has been doing with like the Babylon Bee and stuff like that. What's the other stuff? The Eye of the Tiber, things of that sort. Is that there's some fun to be made of the current craziness, both in politics, but also in regard to things in the church. And who knows if someone's going to end up coming after this guy for his audacity of bringing this song to the fore. But I mean, you just think about it. You've got it reminds you of a biblical truth and really a dogmatic truth as well, is that there are sins that cry to heaven for vengeance, and one that's being promoted like crazy, especially in this particular month, is the sin of sodomy. And so many in the church seem to be going along with it, or else not really saying anything against it, despite the fact that the different governments are promoting it like crazy, and that there are bishops and priests who are promoting it like crazy. So, which one of us is going to be the one that's going to get our proverbial head cut off for it, as you guys say. So I don't know. I think it's worth getting this out there so that we can mock the craziness that's going on in the church, and then hope that at least it provides some sort of, as you guys had just mentioned, some sort of pushback, some sort of fight.
Yeah, I like the idea. I am a huge fan with Freedom Tunes and every that. And one of the best ways of making a point is through humor. And that guy absolutely nails it on that one. So I'm pretty sure if Waz will make that, we'll get that beat into the next album, and we'll get a version of that. So, because I mean, it's pretty fly, yo. I know. I'm sorry.
I've always joked that in hell, especially at the lower circles of it, you're going to have, on repeat, music from the Glory and Praise hymnal and other music from the Novus Ordo in this period.
Eagle's Wings.
Yeah.
All are welcome, baby.
Oh, boy. Or Gather Us In, or
Roll Away the Stone.
Yeah, dare I mention anymore? But yeah, all that kind of stuff is going to be on the speakers in hell. It'll be far worse than any other punishment I think that the demons could devise.
Absolutely. So, Fwaz, you're gonna put that in? Is that are we gonna be able to get a cut of that next album? Are you gonna use that against the Protestant? Because that would totally work.
I don't know if my music is worthy of it. That was actually really great, to be honest with you. I will say this. Finally, there's a great Catholic hymn about the justice of God and the mercy of God for once. I thought that was great. No, and it goes to show you how important music is when it comes to liturgy. And you can make we can make fun of these things left and right. There's a sense of as far as music, that the soul, because music comes out of us, so it comes from within us. It really affects the soul in a certain way. Music has its own hierarchy, as does man, and it affects a certain hierarchy. Gregorian chant being the most simple form of music, therefore, reaching the highest form, which is the intellect. And this is why we have to be very careful when we put in liturgy, and even what we listen to as well. This was a spoof and it was hilarious. The lyrics were great. It goes to show you that you need both content and good music as far as the hierarchy of music. You can't have Gregorian chant with horrible words. At the same time, you can't have Christian rock with great words. It's not going to work when it comes to the liturgy, and even outside of liturgy, a lot of these things that are syncopated music have to be listened to in moderation, provided that they're not evil in their content. So it just goes to show you how important music is when it comes to liturgy. But it was great. That's all I gotta say about it. It was funny.
Well, yes, I hope people can have a sense of humor with it, because it is the lyrics are actually pretty important to, like John said, this month and the current state of the church, and under that humor, I hope you understand that we really are kind of due for one. So laugh all you want, but take it as a warning. So that's kind of in that regard. So that covers that. I apologize if it feels like we're going a little quick today. I have to get to a movie review in a little bit of a 2 hour and 39-minute movie about Elvis. So please offer prayers for me on that one, because that's just ridiculous. So we're going to go with our Saint of the Week. We'll do the round table, then we'll do the cry room. So Steve, who do we have for our Saint of the Week?
I'll go DeSantis for calling out the.
I'm gonna have to put a cut on that too. Just like with the cry room, we have a cut. You got to make you guys think a little bit more.
Well, I was going to give a little bit more than just DeSantis because reasons. I was like, all right, they called out the legacy media. Not too many people do that. Now, my downside with him is he's wanting to be president of the United States when he should just declare independence. Which people that's going to be my cry room. Those who celebrate Independence Day but hate declaring independence from a tyrannical government. Those same people, that's the cry room people for me. But DeSantis, he wants the presidency, but he should declare independence and have Florida become just the People's Independent Republic of Florida and be the president of Florida. And how many people would move there tomorrow?
We want him to become King DeSantis.
Not king, nah. Just everyone would focus on protecting the house then after that. So it's decentralization on every level.
Okay. All right, so that's our Saint of the Week, which is no more Ron DeSantis for a month. He's off the table for a month. Unless he does something extraordinary, then I'll allow it. But John, your saint of the week and cry room.
So yeah, saint of the week. I guess I'll get away with since I live in Florida, I think I can get away with this. Then I'll give maybe the head of the health department in Florida as my saint of the week for saying no to jabs of 6-month-old babies. Even though it was actually DeSantis, I think, who put that through. But basically, Florida was saying that we're not going to do this jabbing of 6-month-olds. So maybe I can get away with that. But
I'll allow it.
But I mean, in all seriousness, I think the thing that I'd say about a saint of the week too is just having recalled Saints Thomas More and John Fisher. Just got to be willing to lay it on the line no matter what happens, in the coming days, months, and years. So I mean, they from the standpoint of the liturgical calendar, I go back to saying we got to remember their example, and in regard to something that was mentioned about the importance of music. I'm all in with that. You'll remember that St. Thomas More noted, right as he was about to go to his death, the chanting of I think it was the Grand Chartreuse monks who were going to their death, if I'm remembering correctly, and just that they were chanting on the way to their death. Singing Gregorian chant, probably some piece from The Office or some such. So yeah, it does remind you of the importance of music for even living a life of virtue there. And as for the cry room, I get, because I ride my bike to mass very, very, very frequently. I would say whoever it was that decided to put Joe Biden on a bicycle, that person deserves to be in the cry room. Because it's not, especially, on busy roads, it's not so easy to be on a bicycle and make your way around this car-focused country of ours.
Yeah. Although it did provide hours of entertainment, at least for me, watching Joe fall down like he got hit with a sniper. I mean, it was just perfect. And it's like the Zapruder film, the way he fell. But that's okay. We'll go with that. Fwaz, if you want to give us your saint of the week and cry room.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll start just a very brief. The virtue of the week I want to give out is mortification, the willingness to suffer, and not just for suffering's sake, and the willingness to suffer for, number one, to accept the crosses that God is giving on a daily basis, because this is the form of sanctification that comes in and makes you perfect. Whether if you're married, you know where that's coming from. It's usually your children or your spouse on a daily basis. But also the willingness to suffer for the sake of growing in virtue and to become as virtuous as you possibly can for the sake of your neighbor, so that you can give yourself. You can't give what you don't have, and the mortification does that. It gives you the ability to suffer well, so that you could become the perfect version of yourself. So that would be my virtue of the week. My saint of the week, I'm going to be a little more personal here. It's all the new friends that I have when I moved to Kentucky from the TLM parish, the incredible folks who dropped off, even though an hour away from us, came and dropped off meals, went out of their way and took care of me and my family, even though I haven't known them for very long. It goes to show you the awesomeness of folks here in Kentucky, folks in the TLM, those who are really living the gospel. Because you shall know them by the fruits and how much we love each other, and they showed my family great love, so I would honor them that they're the saints of the week. The same way, I would say the cry room for me is going to be certain members of Catholic Twitter from what we've seen in the past couple of days, and that you're publicly displaying this hatred for one another is not okay. It shows the enemy that we don't have the fruits of the gospel. We don't have love for one another. If you have a problem with somebody, take it publicly at first, privately at first, and I hate to see this whole bickering amongst each other on Twitter, especially Catholic Twitter, where we're supposed to be the examples of how to hate.
That is a problem with the interwebs. And really, gentlemen, if you have a problem with somebody on Twitter, you have direct messaging. You know what I mean? Yeah, I've had to do that in the past with somebody, and it was very respectful, and everything was worked out because nobody can we just all agree nobody can interpret tone on Twitter. None of you are smart enough. I'm not smart enough. So if you don't figure something out, direct message them, ask to call them, just work it out in the back room. As Benjamin Franklin once said, if you insult somebody in private, they may thank you for it. If you insult them in public, they may take it personally.
Here's
So,
Rick's last tweet to me. You stink.
Yep, that's right. That's right. And you know what? I hashtagged you stink. I want to get it trending. I'm trying to get it trending on the Twitter. Elon, help me. Get that sucker trending. All right, I'll shut up. Ryan, get in here.
I'm just on Twitter for the spicy memes and subtweeting the Brandon administration and bad gun takes. But anyway, so my saint of the week, I'm going old school. So since in the Novus Ordo, it's actually I think isn't it the combined Fisher and Moore on the Novus Ordo? Because 22nd is actually Fisher in the traditional calendar, not Moore. Moore was martyred on 6th July, so that's where his feast day is in the traditional calendar. But either way, so while they have much deserved limelight, there's somebody else who deserves a bit of mention that doesn't get any, and that's Father Thomas Abel. Abel was a chaplain for Queen Catherine, and he went to Henry VIII getting authorization to go to Spain, saying he's going to look for records of the divorce, and Henry just said, oh, wow, okay. Didn't lie, but made it look like he was interested in finding things for the king's case. Instead, he got documents that proved the marriage to Catherine was valid, and he wrote a book on it, Veritas Invicta. And so Henry was so angry when he saw the book that first he even writes angry things in English on the margin, which was against his habit. He recovers his posture and then just writes in Latin on the front. The entire basis of the book is false, and he has Abel imprisoned, and there he sat in prison after Fisher and Moore were martyred until about 1538. He finally got around to having him hanged, drawn, and quartered, and he did not commute that to beheading as he did for Fisher and Moore. So Saint Thomas Abel, who's martyred for the faith, for actively working to for Catherine's marriage. So I'm gonna just highlight him, since hardly anyone's ever heard of him. So, and then my cry room.
All right, there you go.
So cry room, actually. So obviously with this decision from the Supreme Court, it's brought out the worst in the left. But I'm putting one in particular, Keith Olbermann. This tweet. So it's, of course, they can't come out and say, yeah, we need to get 2/3 of the states to change the Constitution, which is the constitutional method of amending anything that's in there. It's like, no, F the court. And he's got another tweet, F all the conservative justices and whatnot. Gotta, F them, ignore the court. I'm like, so all this time, states could have just ignored the court on Roe, right? Is that? But anyway, so I'm putting Olbermann in the cry room because he's just a whiny little witch with a capital B at this point.
I loved him when he was at ESPN, but he's a wackadoo.
Yeah.
Did you see the other day about the secession thing with Texas? Goes, oh, well, you have to get rid of your NFL, your professional teams. Going, you do know Canada has teams.
Yeah, right? They all have teams.
Yeah,
I mean, they're going to put teams in Europe.
Yeah,
so it's like,
like for a sports guy, what argument was that?
That just proves he was never a sports guy. He was just trying to set himself up for
precisely. If you guys secede, Rick, I'm moving down there.
I got a plot of land for you, buddy. You can move right next door. I'm good to go. All of y'all are invited. So that would be fantastic. Except John. John, I'm sure. And the only reason John doesn't want to come here, he's like, I live in Florida. I'm good. I don't need to come to Texas. So I got King DeSantis.
I'd probably wait, because if Texas does it, it might be other states be like, oh, y'all did it first. Let's go. You might get the.
I am on record.
Effect afterwards. I'm waiting.
I am on
if
record.
Florida did it tomorrow, I'm there today. If Texas does it, I'll wait at least a couple of days to see who else does it.
Right.
I propose the Gulf states of America: Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. Let's, we can all go, and then we'll kind of like sneak up Oklahoma, and we'll connect a way to get you guys in Kentucky, Flies. We're good. We'll find a way to connect you guys. So, because I have so much love for Kentucky, I don't want you guys to get left behind.
Right.
So, And but yes, I'm a member of the Texas Nationalist Movement. I would like to get that done. It's on the GOP ballot for the next upcoming election. We'll see how that goes. But Austin,
Hey Rick, is this in Texas?
I don't know, but you might want to put it up so we can get the joke.
My computer is acting up. It was perfect timing for it not to work.
I'll give you the Chuck Norris. There you go, buddy. You're good there. Well, we'll see. We'll all be on the edge of our seats waiting to see if Steve's joke comes true next week. But until then, I want to thank you all for hanging out. We'll start and see if it works next week here on News from the Pew. Thank you for hanging out. For Steve, for Jonathan, for Ryan, and Fawaz, I am Rick Barrett, your host. Now, always and forever, Viva Cristo Rey.
Go to the movie.